I am a passenger, and this is my ship. I am a passenger, and this is my ship. Not just a ship, but a friend. And not just for business, but for pleasure as well. Sometimes she makes me forget there's any difference between the two, for when I'm aboard her, a business trip becomes a pleasure trip. She takes me to far-off places, and she brings me safely home. She's a proud ship, proud of the fact that many people have spent a lot of time, money, and careful thought on her creation. Proud to be worthy of comparison with the other great ships of the Orient Line, or indeed of any line in the world. She responds readily and smoothly to the brains and hands that guide her passage across the oceans of the world. Brains and hands to whom the sea is not merely a livelihood, but a way of life, a calling, an inheritance. I am a passenger. The success of my trip, my comfort, safety, and welfare depend on a lot of people. On the organization who control this ship hour by hour from day to day. Some of them I meet every day of the voyage. Some I never see at all. But the smooth running of this great ship, her confident progress over the trackless sea, is in their hands. I can rely on them, the ship's company. And both I and they rely on many others, hundreds or even thousands of miles away. Behind these officers as they plot our course, behind the sailors, the stewards, the engineers, and all their shipmates, there stands a complex organization of men and women in the great seaports of the world, or in the offices and stores back home. On all these sailors and landsmen, the ship and I depend, and they in turn depend on this ship, because she and her sisters make their position secure. Gone are the days when a ship was on her own once the land had dropped below the horizon. Today, sailor talks to landsman or sailor to sailor over the barrier of that horizon. The air is alive with words, words of advice, of reassurance, of information, social words and business words, the weather forecast, the birthday greeting, the question and the answer. 24 hours a day, we're in touch with the world. I am a hungry passenger, and just as hungry are my 1,369 fellow passengers and the ship's company of 630. We're never allowed to stay hungry for longer than it takes to build up a good appetite, and that's not very long. You can attribute it to the sea air and the general sense of well-being, or you can put it down to the genius of those wizards in the galley. In fact, of course, it's both. The connection between food and well-being is obvious. Less obvious at first sight, but just as important the moment you start to consider it, is the administrative side. Some passengers would only be aware of these men and women if they failed him, but they never do. So the discerning passenger is very conscious of their efficiency and good temper, and is grateful for the contribution they make to his comfort and ease of mind. I am a passenger, and here's a face I shall always remember. It was through him that my family and I traveled by Orient Line on our first trip to Australia. He's a booking clerk in a travel agent's office, and it was he who first introduced me to my ship. He's traveled around himself, and he made my problems disappear one by one. What kind of cabin to take, for instance, and in what part of the ship. He made it seem so simple, as indeed it proved to be. On his suggestion, I went along to the Orient Line office, taking my wife with me, to talk things over with a travel advisor.
Yes, sir.
The travel advisor was extremely helpful and put my wife at ease right away by answering all the little queries that bother a family putting to sea for the first time. What clothes should we take? How should we set about booking a hotel in Melbourne? And what was the best way of getting from Melbourne to Brisbane? Could we buy this, that, and the other on board, or should we bring it? We needn't have worried. Everything seemed to have been thought of. From the very start of our journey, in fact, from the moment we joined the boat train at Waterloo, we discovered that service was the keynote. Everything was so amazingly simple and well organized. The Orchides was waiting to greet us at Southampton at the end of our brief train journey. As soon as you get your first glimpse of an Orient liner, you feel the calm and efficient air that characterizes both the ship and her company. You sense the confidence of men who know exactly what they're doing and enjoy doing it anyway. You sense, too, the atmosphere of welcome that is nonetheless genuine for being well organized. Perhaps, again, it's something to do with the fact that people who take pride and pleasure in their own jobs are usually the friendliest and most courteous. I'm not a VIP, but on the day I boarded the Orchides, I felt like one, and I think every other passenger felt the same way. The steward who showed us our cabin explained that our cabin baggage was all waiting for us, and our heavy things were in the hold, except for the ones we'd marked wanted, and they could be brought along any time we needed them. What about that parcel I'd sent to the ship? It wasn't in the cabin. A purchase tax parcel? Oh, that would be issued soon after the ship sailed. But meanwhile, I could check that it had arrived at the purser's office if I wished. Lunch would be served in half an hour, which gave us comfortable time to do a little unpacking. The cabin was beginning to feel like home already. I wondered how many different types the steward had shown into it on other trips. The charming and the not so charming, the good-tempered and the not so good-tempered, the brusque and the fussy. For it's the privilege of the passenger to be any of these things. But from the very start of the voyage, the ship's company know they can't be bad-tempered or brusque or fussy. They have aboard a varied selection of human beings who will be all the things that human beings are, namely everything in the book. But that Blue Peter coming down means, for the next few weeks, this is a self-contained community, and it's going to be a happy one. Otherwise, the ship's company will have failed in their job, and they've never done that yet, not on the Orient Line. Some passengers prefer to be left to their own devices. Others like a lot of attention. Nothing striking about that, but what I do find striking is the instinct these Orient Line people have for knowing just how much attention each passenger would like. Of course, it isn't an instinct really, but observation and experience. The two factors that make every one of these Orient people a skilled man at his job, from the captain downwards. To run any kind of post office, you need the sort of mind that can solve crossword puzzles. There are so many things to remember and know about. But to run an international post office, and every ship's letter bureau is that, you need the sort of mind that can make up crossword puzzles. This bureau finds the postal arrangements of a dozen different countries as easy to cope with as the chef's department finds their national dishes. And believe me, in the dining room, some very odd requests are made. People ask for things they never dream of in the best hotels at home. Requests that might well cause chaos among the backroom boys if they weren't used to taking them all in their stride. But passengers who are cautious in their demands ashore are often quite different afloat. Because they're at sea, they expect those who serve them to be good-tempered, helpful, courteous, and ingenious. And they get what they expect. For it's on these virtues that the company prospers, and so, in turn, does the ship. The junior dining room is just behind, abaft the main one. It's entirely up to you, and of course Junior, whether Junior eats there or with you. Either way, he'll be well looked after by people who know just how to do it. But this expertness is the same all over the ship. For example, if you're making use of the library, not only will you find it well stocked and varied, you'll find too that the man in charge is extremely well informed and helpful, whatever your taste in books may be. The sea, the sun, and not a care in the world. Time to relax. Time to observe. Time to be relieved of your responsibilities, including that of keeping parents amused. Parents are all right, but one likes a rest from them sometimes. Fortunately, they don't seem worried as long as Miss Bell's around. She's a good sort, she is. Sometimes, when I visit the ship's office, I think how the purser and his staff must envy the leisurely life we lead. If they do, they don't show it. For here, too, is the same quiet efficiency that pervades the ship. And yet it is to the purser that everyone takes his problems, some of them nothing to do with the running of the ship anyway. But if you have a problem, your immediate impulse seems to be, go and see the purser. He'll know the answer. And somehow he always does. I am a passenger, and like all passengers, I'm curious about the ways of the sea. I can't help asking questions about the fascinating technicalities of running a great ship. This chap now, what's he doing? Keeping an eye on the ventilation system, just one of 101 things that contribute to our comfort. Busy as he is, he's still ready with a courteous answer to inquisitive people like me, who want to know how it works. And busy as the captain is, no voyage will be complete without that pleasant social occasion, the captain's cocktail party. To be an officer on a great passenger liner, you require more gifts than navigation or an eye for weather or a head for figures. In varying degrees, every man and woman in the ship's company is a host as well as a sailor. This business of acting as host to 1,370 passengers is not confined to social occasions. It goes on all the time. It's as much part of the job as setting a course or keeping the log up to date or calculating fuel requirements. Nor is it confined to the officers or those whose work is directly concerned with the passengers. Nobody has to join in the deck games. You can take it or leave it as you wish. But it's surprising how many people start with the intention of leaving all that to the energetic ones, only to find that after a couple of days of sea air and Orient Line hospitality, they're not quite as unenergetic as they thought. And before you know where you are, the nets are up all day long. Everyone wants a go. If some important anniversary happens to fall in the middle of your voyage, there's no need to regret being away from home. You'll find all hands putting everything they've got into making it a success. You can even have invitation cards printed, for the ship has her own press with a staff of skilled printers. Frankly, such occasions are even more fun at sea, and the ship's company, without in any way intruding, enter into the spirit of the thing, making you feel they're proud their ship could share in a day you will remember all your life. Needless to say, all the fun isn't grown-up fun. Every passenger in an Orient liner is an important person, whatever his age or status. They want everyone to enjoy the trip, whether or not he had any say in buying the tickets. The shop's a fascinating place. It manages to combine the smartness of Burlington Arcade with the variety of a village store. Don't ask me how they do it. I think it must be the wonderful mixture of necessities and luxuries they offer, and all the different types of people they're used to serving, and obviously enjoy serving. They love being asked for advice, though they never thrust it on you, and their advice is sound. I've never caught them out yet. Needless to say, cameras are in big demand. Everyone catches that particular fever, and the ship's company have to be handy with a camera too. Passengers often ask to be taken together. This lens fever is quite understandable because there's so much to snap, so much they want to be reminded of in the years to come. Many passengers would prefer to watch this sort of thing, but you'll be surprised at the number who are ready to have a sporting try. Some of them surprise themselves.